In what ways does your media product use, develop, or challenge forms and conventions of real media products? My media product has used, developed, and challenged many forms and conventions of real media. During my research, I looked at a variety of different films of similar genre in which I wanted to base my film opening around. Action thriller. This would include films such as Mission Impossible, James Bond, Johnny English, and many more. I looked at codes and conventions used in their films and found some common similarities, in which when creating my film opening, I would take into consideration. For example, one major part of an action thriller I found was the use of weapons and violence. You very often see guns, knives, fistfighting, or some sort of fight scene in order to keep the audience engaged. The fight scenes would vary in length, but would always use shortcuts to make it more intense and safer for the actors not to get hurt. In this, I found a trick of choosing the camera angle carefully to look as if they were being punched but actually weren't. Violence is one main convention that defines an action thriller. It's something that the audience would expect to see when deciding to see this genre. This is something I decided to base my opening around, by including both the quick fistfight and the pull of a gun to the face as a threat if he didn't get his own way. I also found that there were films such as James Bond and Mission Impossible where they added a fast beat track over the top of the action, in which I decided to do the same and make the music suddenly change when action was taking place. Another common convention of action thrillers was the use of having an antagonist and protagonist, where the good guy always has to win in order for the audience's expectation to be met, where the hero always won in the end. They mostly always seem to be the better fighters, apart from Johnny English of course, but that was due to it also being a comedy. However, one convention which I found only occurred in specific films was the use of putting the title sequence after a quick action scene, before then going into the main film. This I found was the case in James Bond, Mission Impossible, and Johnny English, which is why I decided to interpret this into my opening. I found that they always put the names of the actors within this part of the titles in order of importance, which is what I also did. However, I challenged the convention of showing the actors and then the names appearing on screen, by only displaying their name on specific cards which related to the importance of their character, in which the audience would later on find out. I also very carefully chose the font I used within this title sequence and the colours. I found within title sequence openings a common theme of using dark colours like blue, black or red for instance, within action thrillers. For example, I used a black background with dark shadows to set the tone of the next scene being set in the night. I carefully chose to have the inside of the bubble text to have crosses within them to look similar to the back of other playing cards. I specifically chose to have red playing cards rather than blue ones because it can help to represent the blood and violence shown in the rest of the film. I carefully placed each name on different cards relating to the characters they played. For example, Mike Carter was placed on a king card because he is the boss of Alex Boyd, who has been placed on the jack card. Jack Coots was placed on a 6 of spades, whereas Ollie was on a 4 of spades. This is because I have decided that Jack would feature more in the film later on, and become one of the main dilemmas as to why the job doesn't go easily. Throughout the rest of the film, the other cards will soon be uncovered as to who they are, and the other roles to be played. I also decided to put introducing rather than starring or featuring, as these are new actors and wouldn't be known to any audience yet. Another common aspect of action thriller I found was the use of low-key lighting. I managed to include this in my own opening by adding a filter from Adobe. I also added this same filter to the Warner Brothers animation in order to set the scene of the genre thriller, making it seem low-spirited and perchance a sense of it being a dangerous location. Non-diegetic sound effects are always commonly edited into the films, especially into fight scenes, to really emphasise the action and keep the audience engaged. I added in sounds, especially in the first scene when Alex and Ollie were punching each other, when he clicked his arms and threw Ollie into the container of rubbish. I also added a louder sound of the gun being pulled to really emphasise the threat and to show he wasn't taking any second chances.
Hand it over. Or what?
Another common convention I found was the use of the hero or assassin walking towards the camera looking fairly proud with the action that had just taken place. This is shown for instance through the film John Wick when he is walking away from the job he had just committed, which is also shown in the background. I decided to use this in my film opening in scene 1 when Alex's character has just knocked out the bad guys.